You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Mad Men time, y'all. We do need to get a professional sound machine because I don't think they like it.
Yeah, it probably doesn't sound as good if we had an actual machine there. Something like that. Hey, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
That's right. We're just real men. Having real conversations for you.
You know what I'm saying? We have real conversations for you. And like that intro said, I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. This is like a Colonel Jessup, Lieutenant Caffey kind of show right here. Trigger alert, major level, DEFCON 10, trigger alert today.
Yes. This is a 5 fingers to the face, trigger alert.
Baby powder on the hand. What did 5 fingers say to the face? Slap. Fingers to the trigger alert. So don't say you weren't warned, by the way. Don't say you were not warned. What's about to go down, what's about to transpire up in this joint.
And just so you know, when we do the trigger alert, that is because this may be triggering content, but also we want you to actually take it in.
Yeah.
Don't just get triggered and respond and get all crazy. Actually listen to what we're saying.
If you're triggered, it's for a reason.
Yes.
That's just the way life is. If you're triggered, it's absolutely for a reason. So what are we gonna? So the topic for today, my friends, is submission. Submission.
I told you I was on 3.
Uh-oh.
Okay, turn it up. Mic number 2 is broken.
We're doing some mic swapping arounds in here.
How about number 1?
We're doing some mic swappings. So, hey, if you don't know, now you know. See, what we do is we record our shows on Mondays for the Saturday 8 a.m. and the following Wednesday 6 p.m. over the air 12:20 a.m. KLDC and on the interwebs everywhere.
And that was our super producer.
That was our super producer.
Do I sound okay?
Yeah.
Apparently, I didn't sound like anything at all.
So boom. So trigger alert.
There it is.
Trigger alert.
So for all you folks in the car wondering what just happened.
Yeah.
Trigger alert.
Trigger alert. Ladies and gentlemen, the topic for today is submission. Submission.
And I don't mean like MMA submission.
No. Remember the camel clutch?
Yeah.
Who was his name?
Oh,
the Iron Sheik. Yeah. The camel clutch.
Like with the iron claw.
Yeah. The figure 4 leg lock.
Yeah.
Get the figure 4 leg lock. No, we're not talking about that kind of submission. No. We're talking about submission of the heart, submission of your mind, your actions, your spirit, submissions in the context maybe of relationship, any one of those kind of things, and just life in general, man. And when did it become a bad thing?
Yeah. Well, and that's what's really interesting because I've had several occasions where I said, when ladies are asking us, what are guys looking for in women? We say agreeable, submissive, feminine, loving, and for some reason, agreeable and submissive, I've been told now, are fighting words. And I don't think it was really agreeable, but I think they just threw that in there. Yeah. I didn't like it. But
child, please.
When did submission become fighting words?
I don't know, but man, a couple of days ago, somebody left me a voice memo on the interwebs on Facebook. And in the voicemail, amongst the other several other things that she said was that, when we tell men, first of all, when we tell men the stuff that we're telling men to think and the stuff that we're telling men that they should do, like we had that much power and say so to be telling men. We're not telling men what to think. We're telling you what men think. But anyhow, so that being said, she went into this whole thing. She was all emotional. She went into this whole thing about what is dangerous telling men, in her words, telling men that they should find women who are submissive and oh, by the way, we should stop and we should not have these types of conversations and we should not be doing this. Okay.
First of all,
the best way to get the Mad Men of Masculinity to talk about something is to tell us not to talk about something, especially if you're on the outside looking in. I'm just gonna put it that way. You know, I mean, in terms of the topics we should not say, we should not. Those are exactly the things that we should talk about. And yet at the same time, I feel like almost more women that, I mean, just somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, at an event, a female, she came up to me, lady, and she said she had messaged you at some other time and all that stuff. And she loved the fact that the things we talk about, that she doesn't normally hear, and it's great to hear what, the way guys talk and the things guys talk about and all this other kind of stuff. So anyhow, the whole one-off thing of, hey, you guys shouldn't be telling women nothing, whatever, man. Mm-hmm. But the whole idea was like submission, and why is it such a bad thing?
Well, the only thing I can think of and what it seems to be related to is that there has been this demonization of the old nuclear family and of what people are calling the patriarchy and toxic masculinity and stuff like that. When we had our roles and the woman was at home in the kitchen, taking care of the kids, taking care of the house, like that was her castle, like she was the queen of that castle. The man went out and made the money and provided the income for that and stability. That was not slavery. She chose to be a part of that relationship. Now, granted, I get it back, before the 50s and in the early 1900s, women didn't have all the rights they do now. But it wasn't like she was forced to do that. It was a combined. It was a group effort. Let's just put it that way. It was a group effort. He was providing, she was providing. They were both providing, and in the greatest terms of that, they were both submitting to the family. They were both submitting to the greater things in our lives. The kids, the family, that family unit, the town, the village. I mean, the whole thing. They were thinking of what is bigger than them that they were serving. And as we keep coming back to the serving thing, why is it so hard to look at relationships nowadays as something that you are going to serve? Why is it always like, what are they going to do for me and serve me? And that's why so many people are lonely and on their own right now, is because they have forgotten that relationships are about service, mutual submission, not about what you gonna do for me.
Yeah, submission is not weakness, and I think somehow I know exactly how it happens. I know if you are offended by the notion, the idea of submission, it's because you've been hurt or wounded or abused by somebody that you feel like took advantage of you and feel like maybe came at you, abused you, and dominated you, and all those kinds of things. Which I get, and those things happen, and I'm not justifying or signing off on any of that kind of stuff. But the idea of submission, to me, it's like money. It's neutral, except for the attribute that you apply to it. Let me go deeper in that. People say money is evil. No, money is not evil, and that's not the Bible. The love of money is the root of all evil. Money can do great things. Money can also do bad things. When money and submission serves other people, it's fantastic. When money and submission serve yourself, then it's abusive and it's destructive. But somebody that's offended by the term submission, particularly a woman that's offended by the term submission, is probably because she feels like a man at some point in her past has hurt her, wounded her, and took advantage of her. And if that's the case, I would say maybe that's an area for healing. And maybe that's an area for you to recognize that not all men are like that man. And maybe, just maybe, if you picked a better man that would cherish and value your submission, then you would have a completely different experience in the word, in the term, in the mutual exchange of submission.
Yeah, and that is why we talk about so much personal responsibility and making sure if you have some trauma in your past that you heal that. Because even if you become aware that you have trauma, but you have not healed it, and then you go out into the world, you're going to attract the same kind of guy who traumatized you the first time. Plus, and this is trigger alert number 2, you have to take responsibility on who you chose. I realize we all have our traumas from our childhood. We all have the little stories and the subconscious belief system. But you still chose that person, and you need to learn from that. When you say, all men are bad because this guy did this, but you're not taking personal responsibility that I chose to be with him and I chose to stay with him and I didn't choose wisely, and now you're not taking that as a lesson and learning from it. You're just going to repeat that pattern.
Yeah.
So you got to take personal responsibility in this world, guys and girls.
And if you keep coming across bad people,
go ahead.
If you keep experiencing the same thing over and over again in relationship, if you keep well, all men are this because every guy I date is this, or all women are this because, man, every time women, they ain't the problem. It's not women, it's not men, it's you. And if you are hurt and wounded and you don't have all that healed and all that kind of stuff, and maybe at some point you need to look in the mirror and say, okay, what is it either about me that keeps picking these kind of people, or what is it about me that keeps attracting these kinds of people? And I mean, maybe it's the people that I find attractive, or maybe it's the people that I keep going after and getting into these relationships with that dictate how I see and how I experience relationship, especially in the context of submission.
Yeah, and there's something that I came across recently that is a game changer that you need to be aware of, because it kind of put ripples, like when I think about my past relationships in my life and those I'm attracted to, it really like sent ripples through that whole thing. I had to like readjust and think about all those in a different way, because a lot of times what we think we're attracted to, what we think is excitement, is anxiety. That your trauma is being triggered again. So you think that guy is pushing your buttons and you get all the tingles. That might be butterflies. That might be your trauma being triggered again, because that's the same dude you've been dating in a different body. So being aware of, like, can you stop and ask yourself, like, oh, I got the tingles. Wait, is that tingles? Or is that anxiety and fear? Is that my traumas and my higher self going, careful, danger, Will Robinson, danger.
If men in general, and again, obviously we can't have open dialogue and conversations and talk about every exception and talk about the minority in the group in terms of numbers and demographics and all that kind of stuff. So generally speaking, we're talking 51 out of 100, right? Generally speaking, we don't say that we're pretty much talking about 51 out of 100, whatever. If most men, and I would say most men probably by far, especially these days, are saying, man, I would love to find a woman that has a submissive spirit. Maybe it's because those same men, thereby most men, are experiencing or are noticing or are seeing a trend in society and culture of women who are anti, or women who bark at, women who scoff at the idea of having a submissive heart. Not somebody that and again, you're talking about outliers where you have the guy who wants to control and wants to dominate and all that kind of stuff. That's a dysfunctional guy, okay? We're not talking to those guys. We're talking in the context of healthy masculinity. And there are a lot of healthy guys out there. And so unhealthy guy kind of doesn't fall into the scenarios that we're talking about in general, in terms of what you would experience with submission in the context of a relationship with a good guy.
Yeah, and part of the reason this is such a triggering topic is because in our society today, there's this women's empowerment movement, which is great. However, the problem is women have been empowering themselves with masculinity, and thinking that that's the only way to gain power, that's the only way to raise themselves up, not thinking about what if you use your divine femininity, maybe the goddess energy, and become the best woman you can be. And every man that we talk to wants to serve that woman, but we do not want to serve a masculine woman who's just competition and critiquing and giving us more grief at home. That we could grieve all day at work. We're out there slaying the dragon, then we got to come home and slay another dragon. I don't think so, honey. We want peace.
A masculine woman is a dude.
It's a dude.
And if you keep coming across guys that want you to always pay and want you to provide and support them, then he sees you as a dude or a parent, right? And so again, you got to ask, what kind of, we just had the conversation about masculine, feminine, like how am I presenting in this scenario? And in our culture, largely speaking, there is at least a trend of there being an anti culture of the idea and notion of submission. But let's submit to a break.
Oh yeah.
What do you think?
I think it's time for a break. Men of Masculinity on KLDC, 1220 AM in the Mile High City. We'll be right back after this break. Is it better now, Nikki? Okay. And Mike too, for some reason, he broke, so it won't stay up. So I'll be on mic 1 from now on, unless we're in another studio. Awesome. Come here and fix this stuff.
Microphone checker. 1, 2, checker. All right.
And yes, we are live. So if you are watching us on the live stream, you can go to Mad Men of Masculinity on Facebook, Mad Men Radio, and comment. We'll see your comments. Of course, we did say trigger warnings, so you may want to listen first and comment later.
Or you can comment, and JBK will make you famous. He'll put your comment right up on the screen, and
Unless you're trying to spam, and then no.
Oh yeah, we won't do that. Boom. And we're back. Mad Men of Masculinity, 12:20 a.m. in the Mile High City and on the interwebs, everywhere. We talking podcast streams, we talking YouTubes, we talking social media, we talking everywhere. They ain't even the V, it's just everywhere. Everywhere, all over the place. Today we talking about submission. The notion, the idea, the concept of submission. I personally, when I think of the word submission, I think of it as service. I think of it, to me, it's synonymous with service, almost service to sacrifice, sacrificial service in some kind of way, but service that in some way costs you something. I mean, to me, again, I have no idea what the textbook definition is, but to me, that's the concept that I think of. And, the word samurai is one who serves, right? So ideally, even from a man perspective, or even from a masculine perspective, you're coming at it from a servant warrior kind of thing, and you offer your service up in the form of warriorship, in the form of every knight is knighted on his knees, right? And so that to me is the notion of I'm submitting to something greater than myself. And so that whole idea of submission, man, to me, it's really powerful, and it's really almost it's opposite of what our culture would make it be, but it's almost coming from a place of strength, because you can't offer nothing, you can't submit to nothing if you don't have any strength to offer it.
Yeah, I mean, submission is really about committing to something greater than yourself. And just like the knight who kneels down in front of the king or the queen and gets knighted, when a man gets down on his knees to offer you a ring and they propose to you, he is submitting to you and the family that you're going to build. And he's submitting to something greater than himself. And that's why we find it so confusing when we say a masculine man, would like a woman who's agreeable and feminine and loving and submissive, submitting to him as her husband, submitting to the family as a greater entity, submitting to something bigger than themselves. But for some reason now, submission sounds like, oh, well, you're a slave to me now. And that's not, it's submission of choice. Yeah. We all want to submit to something greater than ourselves. Every man has a purpose and a mission in life. And if he doesn't, he should find one. And he submits to that because it gives him greater purpose, it gives him greater self-respect. It makes him the man that all you ladies want to have in the world. But he's already submitted to something. Yeah. He's submitted to something greater than himself because that is his purpose. That is his passion. That is what gets him out of bed in the morning to make a difference in the world. And that's why you like him. That's why he's attracted to you. And all he wants is for you to submit to him as your husband, as a partner in your life, as the one that you are going to grow a family with. And it's a choice. You're not submitting as slavery. You're not being sold. This is not the 1500s where your father brings you down with goats and a cow and sells you off. It's 21st century, completely different game. But submission is not a bad thing. It's actually where the root of strength and stability in any kind of relationship and family and community, for that matter.
Full disclosure, my first marriage, I will never forget this moment. And man, I was young and dumb. I ain't know no better, man. But we standing there at the proverbial altar getting married, and we did like traditional vows or whatever. And when the pastor got to the part about reading the vows and her submitting and obeying or whatever, submitting, I think it was. I remember the moment she turned and looked over her shoulder at her mother and was like, and then turned right back around and was like, yeah. I mean, dude, if that wasn't raging, like a flare, dude, exit now, do not pass go, do not collect $200. I mean, and obviously history played out to show that. But that's how you end up being, old, lonely, and single forever. When you don't have that heart of service and submission. I personally believe that, mutual submission is the most powerful form of love and intimacy in a relationship. And I think, man, when two people can wake up in the morning and say, how can I serve this other person? how can I serve this other person? Not waiting for the other person to do something and then, well, I'll reciprocate or whatever. You know, it was, you know, again, I've had this conversation too with, you know, with several women actually. You know, I'll respect a man when he's respectable, and I'll whatever. And it's like, well, how would you feel if you heard a man say, "I'll love you when you're lovable"? You know, and only when you're lovable will I love you. When I feel like you're lovable is when I will love you. But when two people can like wake up and just, I mean, just have a commitment to serve one another, and how can I make your life better? It is the ultimate yin and yang. It's the ultimate completion of the full circle where you're whole, I'm whole. A little bit of me is in you and a little bit of you is in me. And so because a little bit of me is in you, I look to serve that and vice versa. And it's not conditional. There's no scoreboard. It's just, how can I make this thing better by submitting to this process that we have called relationship?
Yeah, and when, you know, I've talked about it before, when you come together, you know, there's the individual you and there's the individual her, you know, and then when you come together, you create the third entity of a relationship. And this is, you know, you can call it whatever you want to, but that's what you're submitting to, is a greater entity of the relationship, the family, the community, everything else. And the reason we have so many divorces nowadays, the reason, and I'm pretty much convinced that the fact that submission has become a bad term and become taboo nowadays is the reason we have so many divorces, because you're not submitting to your husband as in his slave. You're submitting to the relationship, and you are committing to going through the trials and tribulations and making that your primary focus. You're submitting to that greater relationship so that you can have a foundation, so that you can have the love and respect and honor that you want, which comes from being committed to each other and growing this bigger thing together. But if submission is a bad thing to you and you are only looking at what you can get out of it, then you're not committed to a greater thing, you know, something bigger than yourself. You're not committed to the family. You're not committed to growing together. You're only in it until the butterflies go away, which guess what happens to everybody. You got to work on it to keep those butterflies. You got to work on it to keep that energy going, that masculine, feminine energy, keeping that sexual polarity going on. And that's how you keep it going. You got to submit to this greater thing than yourself. When you are only thinking about yourself, then you're going to end up lonely, all by yourself, without anybody that you can serve. Because for all of us as human beings, service becomes our greatest reward. That is our path to love. That is our path to heaven. That is our path to our greatest joys in life, is being of service to others. So I say it all the time. If you're missing something that you want, go give it. Go serve that to somebody else, and I guarantee you'll start to receive it back.
You know, the word picture that of what you just described, the word picture I like to use is the campfire. That we, you know, this campfire is I'm talking about in a relationship, a word picture. I'm on one side, you're on the other side of the campfire, or we're sitting side by side, whatever. We're around this campfire. There's you and there's me, but the campfire is us. And so it's, how can we wake up every single day and feed this campfire? What can we do to nourish? And that campfire, for all intents and purposes, will burn infinitely. It'll never go out as long as it has the basic ingredients, the fuel, oxygen, you know, I mean, and so how can I feed a log into that campfire? How can I fan the flame of that campfire? How can I maintain that fire? Sometimes you got to turn some logs to get some coals stirred up and all those kinds of things. But it's like, how can I serve this campfire that's us in a relationship? And to me, that's me submitting to this relationship. That's me submitting to us. That's me submitting to you. And I might do that I might do that from a masculine perspective. You might do that from a feminine perspective. The two things we do might look different, might present different, but either way, it's your sacrifice and my sacrifice. And I'm not doing it out of fear of repercussions. I'm not doing it out of, you know, anxiety. I'm not doing it to prove or to win anything or any of that kind of stuff. I'm doing it because I'm in this. I'm committed to you with this. And so it is therefore my duty, my opportunity, my gift, my blessing to serve.
Yeah, and when we come back from this next short break, we're going to be talking about submitting to your natural nature as a man, as a woman, and how those things will improve the relationships you're having, and why you might be struggling because you may not be submitting to your natural nature. But we'll be right back. Mad Men of Masculinity on KLDC 1220 AM in the Mile High City. Boom.
And I'm going to drink some nectar this is man nectar right here. Body armor.
You got to come up with a new slogan.
That's my man nectar.
That's a bad slogan.
That's my man nectar right there.
I'm telling you.
Dude, that's good stuff, man. I'm telling you, dude. I mean, we got to get this. Yeah. I mean,
you gotta get it right.
We do, man. We do. We need to take the negative stigma off of something just because it ain't working for us right now. People that are broke want people that got money to not have money, and it's negative because you ain't got it. If you got it, then then it's a great thing, and you can use it to do some good. But whatever, man. Boom. I have no idea where you about to go with all that you just said.
You'll figure it out.
All right. We'll see. All right.
You're smart. You pick up well.
I've been told. I've been told. I
don't hang out with big old knuckleheads all the time.
Yeah, I've been told such things. All right, boom.
Bring it back.
It's your boys, Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM, Mile High City. And behind the screen and the keyboard anywhere and headphones anywhere near you. I mean, man, podcasts everywhere and all that kind of stuff. I had Mad Men on my TV screen at home. I think it was on the iHeartRadio app or something like that. You can tell Alexa to play KLDC. I mean, I'm telling you, man, we're all over the place. Everywhere. Holler at your boys. We want to hear your feedback. We want to hear whether you think, maybe
that's where we get our content. We get feedback.
We sure do.
A lot of times there's negative feedback, and
we're okay with that.
Dig into it even deeper.
We're okay with that. We're okay with people agreeing. I don't feel like, we are the ultimate gurus or everything. We just have our opinions based on our experience, background, perspective, and conversations, and we throw it out there. So we would love to hear your feedback, and holler at your boys.
We do our best to cover as much as we can, but like Kirk said, we can really only cover our experiences. So we try to spread the love out as much as we can, but there's only so far we can go before it gets too thin. And we want to keep it deep. We want to keep it meaningful, which is why we love when we get some negative feedback, because it gives us something to dig into.
Yeah. Now, I can't talk about him. I can talk about me. You come in wrong, I'm getting the baby powder out. I'm getting the baby powder, and you about to get a slap right across the face. Like, you come at me sideways, I'm coming back at you sideways because I'm just like that.
Just make sure, we've said it before, I'll say it again. Just make sure you actually listen to us. You watch the episodes.
Yeah.
I get irritated when you just see the title and go off.
Or they pull like one little thing, one little sentence or one little obscure reference. And man, one time, man, you mentioned somebody who wrote a book that said one thing in their book, and then somebody else is reaching out. Do you have any idea what she said in her book about this and that? And like, what are you talking about, bro? I mean, man. So anyhow, but yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's enjoyable.
We enjoy it. That's why we covered topics like submission.
Submission.
Like the new 4-letter word for the ladies out there.
Apparently,
because that's the feedback we're getting. When we say masculine men want an agreeable, submissive woman, it starts a fire.
Oh yeah, they don't like that. They don't like that, man. They don't like that because they've been hurt.
Well, and that's where.
And they got fear.
Yeah. Well, that's the fear because for some reason masculinity has been labeled as the power, energy. That's where you got to use your power. But when you go outside of your natural energy, a feminine woman is in her power will run most men day and night.
Dude.
And that's what I'm saying. Submit to your natural power. If you're a man who is 60% masculine and 40% feminine, you got that balance. Well, submit to your masculine side. If you're a woman who's 70% feminine and 30% masculine, submit to whatever the greater side is, because that's where most of your power is coming from. But when you are a woman thinking you got to be in your masculine energy to get things done, it wears you out. It doesn't resonate well, and then it makes you a dude to other guys.
Yeah.
Actually, when you talk to have you dig into that, I love when you talk about if you're going out on a date and he sees you as a dude or he sees you as a mom. Talk about that. I love when you dig into that.
Yeah. So somebody else. I mean, this was another interweb exchange. Some wounded, spiteful boss babe, gonna be old and lonely forever woman. Oh, she's pretty bitter, man. She was really bitter. Anyhow, she was going on and on about how, men always ask her to pay half or want her to pay and all this other kind of stuff. And and she swore up and down that she was feminine, because you can look at my pictures and tell I'm not masculine. It's like, I'm gonna tell you what, man, it ain't got nothing to do with how you look. I mean, it's like, it's that energy that you got. And if you show up, if you present yourself, if you're a woman and you present yourself as masculine to a dude, to a man, he'll see you as a bro. He'll see you as a dude. And if we go out, then naturally you carry your load, I carry my load. If you present your masculinity, your masculine energy to a boy, a grown boy, then he's going to see you as mama. He's going to see you as a parent and somebody that needs to provide for him and needs to support him. So if you keep experiencing those kind of things, I got news for you. It all comes back to how you present and how you show up in all of those spaces, man, in terms of what it looks like to that guy. Because a man will lay down his life for femininity. Women, y'all don't realize how powerful femininity is and what femininity can get you. Like, y'all don't even know. It's a superpower. When you show up in that space, like a man, I'm not talking about like, boy men, grown boys. I'm talking about like a man will show, he's just gravitated to that and he just absolutely wants to serve that. And what can he do for that? It's an extremely powerful thing when you show up in it's the face that launched 1,000 ships or something like that what's her face or whatever. It's that powerful, and you're willing to lay that down because culture tells you need to be masculine, because that's where you're going to get it doesn't work that way. I'm telling you, especially in guy world and guy space, because if you show up as guy in guy thing, then okay, we either got to spar, we got to box, or you pick up your load, I pick up my load, whatever. But I'm telling you, when you show up, there's some significant power in showing up in your femininity in a masculine world, in a masculine space.
Well, just look at who used to run the roost. It was grandma. Grandma was the head. She was the queen. She ran the entire family, and everybody bowed to her.
Dude, you don't mess with Emma Jane. Right. And boy, you don't mess with Mama.
So, and if you look at the energy she brought, it was that divine, feminine, loving, motherly energy that we all need and want. And so if you're a woman coming from a masculine energy, and if you want to know if you're coming from a masculine energy, see how guys respond to you. If they're competitive, argumentative, or if they just avoid you, you might be coming from a masculine energy. If you are open, and here's another reason. I know women hate to hear this, but one of the reasons that men tend to gravitate toward younger women is because they're still more fully in their feminine. They haven't been traumatized. They don't have a bunch of kids. They don't have their own business. And, they're at the prime of their sexual marketplace value. That is one of the reasons, because they're at the prime of their femininity and before the world beats them down and turns them into a man. Yeah. But there are ways, get around your feminine lady friends, go out, maybe get in. I think, what was it? Rachel on Corner Cafe, when we did that joint one last week, was talking about embrace your emotions. Learn how to, as a woman, embrace your emotions and share those with your lady friends again. Learn how to get back into that feminine energy and then express that and be open to that, because for some reason that has become weakness. I don't know where that idea came from, because I can't have kids and I don't want to even try. I don't care what kind of surgeries they put out there now. I'm not even.
Or get away from some of your female friends.
Or, if they're
because some of your female, single women want to keep you single. Single women want women to be single. And so sometimes you need to make sure you get around the right groups of people to help you get in the space you want to get into. You shouldn't be swimming in every school of fish.
Well, that's something we just did a joint podcast with Jude Sandoval, the divorce advocate again, and Ralph from Dad's on Top. What was it?
Dad's Starting Over.
Dad's Starting Over. He was talking about divorces are catching, which is interesting because they're not catching from the guys, but you see one lady leave, and he was talking about his own situation. He got a divorce, and then the lady next door to him left her husband, and then the lady on the other side left her husband. So you gotta stop listening to those ladies.
Yeah, women that have, I'm telling you, women that have tapped into this secret are the quietest women on social media, because they are somewhere just being happy. They got a man that they ain't got to do. They sneeze and he got a tissue before she finished saying chew. I'm telling you. Women that have tapped into this, the power of this. It is an absolute secret that I think some women have, and culture doesn't want you to get it. And I know that from a woman's perspective, so many of y'all are out there and you're having to work and you're having to do masculine things, which gets you into masculine spaces. You have to protect, you got to provide, you got to produce, all these other P's that you got to do. And you don't get to be her. You don't get to be that, that feminine thing that you want, that you used to be or whatever. You don't get to do all of those kinds of things. And so I get that life pushes you in those directions. When it comes to the dynamic between guys, between men, I'm telling you that it's a superpower that if you just even begin to explore it, you'll see that literally doors will begin to open for you.
And that's what I meant by submitting to your feminine energy, ladies. When you submit to your natural feminine energy and embrace that and express that, you will see those guys that have been avoiding you suddenly take notice, because we can feel that masculine energy. And when it's coming from a lady, a lot of times we go, you're not a dude. I don't even want to deal with that. But when you express that feminine energy, when you're glowing and in that grace of femininity, we will notice that and we will naturally serve. And that's the other thing too. You have to surrender to your feminine energy, submit to that feminine energy, and allow. You have to receive, because feminine energy is receptive. So when we try to be, gallant, be the gallant knight in shiny armor kind of thing, and help you with the door, help you with the groceries, help you load your bags like that, receive that. He doesn't want anything from you other than to serve you as a feminine woman. But like, society's got you thinking that every dude that comes up to you, either he wants something more or he's trying to scam you or whatever, so you got to be on guard. And I get it. It's far more dangerous to be a woman out in society today, and you feel like your life is threatened far more. But if you want a masculine man, these are the things you got to be open to.
Now, somebody is saying, wait a minute. I don't want to get taken advantage of. Wait a minute. I don't want to get hurt like that last one hurt me. I don't want to experience that again. And somebody, the cognitive dissonance that somebody's experiencing right now is like, wait a minute, but everything you're telling me is something that I've done in the past and it turned out bad. And I don't want to do that again because I don't want to experience that again. Let me tell you something. I've been taken advantage of in the past. I feel like I've been manipulated in the past. I feel like I've been lied on. I've been hurt in the past. But we can't let our past dictate or hold us back from our future. You can't take fear into your future, particularly in relationships. You can't come into a scenario like that expecting that. What you can do, though, is, again, learn from your mistakes, and you can learn how to pick better and to make sure that we had a whole conversation in the past about dropping the handkerchief. Mm-hmm. They're the little, and when I use the word test lightly. I don't mean test like manipulation. I mean the whole drop the handkerchief kind of thing. When you get to a door, when you're walking up to a door, maybe you slow down a little bit. Maybe you slow down and see if he moves forward and opens that door for you. I mean, those kind of things, and then and then you begin to gauge, okay, is it safe to do that? And I think from a guy perspective, there are keys and indicators as well as to whether or not mutual submission can flow. And I'm in our last segment here, I'm gonna come back to the whole idea of mutual submission, but will that be able to flow back and forward? Because if it doesn't flow from her, then she's literally damned. Like there's no flow. I mean, she's damned up. It can't come out of her. So what you pour into her, you're never going to be able to experience back.
Yeah, and it comes back to personal responsibility. I know how much you hate personal responsibility, but guess what, folks? That's a secret to your own personal happiness and to life, and the fact that if you want to make life better, you got to make it better for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, man. So, yeah, I mean, this whole idea, I think fear is holding a lot of people back from experiencing a good thing, but the fear shouldn't be of the people out there. Fear should be of the person in here. I don't want to make the same mistake again. So fix this in here, and you'll experience a different thing out there. You'll experience a whole nother different reality.
I don't even think fear is even the right word. Respect your past experiences and learn from them.
Right. Learn from them. Absolutely.
Learn from this break.
Boom.
Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 in Mile High City. We'll be right back. So like that, I sang that one.
Yeah, don't do that again. What? That was terrible.
What?
Don't sing. There's a lot of things you can do.
You don't like my singing?
No, there's a lot of things you can do. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of things you can do. You are gifted. You are talented.
Let's see how you're trying to.
Singing ain't one of them.
See that kind of
Dude, we got to know our limits. This room has limits. Don't try to walk through the wall.
I can't auto-tune.
No, you ain't T-Pain.
T-Pain can sing though.
Yeah. Well, he can auto-tune like the best of them.
You gotta watch behind the scenes.
I seen him sing. I seen a little video of him singing, but homeboy can do some auto-tune though. Homeboy can do, you know what I'm saying? Well, if you don't have T-Pain doing auto-tune, don't sing. That's all I'm saying.
Hey, Nick, we got auto-tune. Can I submit to auto-tuning?
No.
That sounded like a threat.
Yeah, that sounded like a threat. I don't think you should do it. If I was you, I would not.
Sound like I would come off sounding worse than I already
Probably. Yeah, she gonna put not auto-tune, she gonna put auto-fool on that bad boy. Tune out. She gonna put auto-tune out on that thing, man. Yeah, I'm just saying, don't sing.
Okay.
All right, let's make a deal. Never, ever sing again.
Ever.
Ever? All right, boom. Men of Masculinity, KLDC, 1220 AM on the AM side of the radio in the Mile High City. That would be Denver, Colorado.
If you didn't know.
But if you're not in Denver, Colorado, everywhere, like literally global. We go global with this bad boy. You know what I'm saying? We global.
You don't catch us at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning for 6 p.m. on Wednesday nights. You can go to 1220kldc.com and you can stream it whenever you like.
You can go to Madman Radio, man. We got all kinds of stuff on there, man. It's all.
You can find us and tell us all your horror stories and tell us how janky and full of it we are. Boom.
Home stretch. Man, let me tell you something. The whole idea of mutual submission, to me, mutual submission is the core of intimate, long-term, foundational connection. I don't go down I don't necessarily go down the preaching road too much on this here show. But for all you folks out there, I talk to a lot of women who want a man that has godly beliefs and godly values. I want a godly man, all those kinds of things. Mutual submission is biblical. It absolutely is. Ephesians 5, y'all know what it is, 21, and on from there. It's mutual submission it's a biblical concept. So I don't want to hear from woman that wants a man with godly principles, godly values. I want a godly man, but I got a problem with submission. The two don't go hand in hand, because godly man is going to say, okay, I'm to love you and you are to submit and or respect to me, depending on the version that you have. And so you gotta know the source of what it is you're looking for. And if it's if it's a man with those kind of principles, those kind of beliefs that you say you want and you're looking for, but you have a problem with that, then your whole thing ain't lining up. But mutual submission is absolutely amazing, man. To experience that has been the gift of my life. And I think I at this point, I'm experiencing it from different directions in different capacities. And man, in my personal kind of intimate romantic life, in my friendship life, and all these other kind of things, I'm experiencing mutual submission of how can I serve you? And being thought of when I'm not around, thinking about the other person when they're not around. And that whole idea is foundational and it's powerful, man. And it can change the world. That's how you multiply. That's how you multiply who each other is and take things to the whole next level. Mutual submission is huge, man. The creator of the universe got on the floor and washed feet. And whether you believe that Jesus is your God or whether you believe that that's some guy that said he was God, either way, he got on the floor and washed feet. That is submission, and that is powerful. That comes from a source of strength, not from a source of weakness. And so if you want to offer up something to somebody, offer them your submission, and especially in the healthiest of ways. And that thing, man, it'll be an absolute flow in your life that you can create, especially when you create that with somebody else, man. It is extremely powerful.
Yeah, let's break down what we mean by mutual submission from both sides. A man submits to his woman, to the family, to his children, to protect, provide, preside. He is there to be the lead. He wants to be there to create the structure, the foundation that you as the feminine fill. You take that house, make it a home. You take that food, turn it into a meal. You take what he gives you and turn it into kids and a family and a tribe and a village. And on the other side, as a lady, you submit to his leadership. All these ladies who want an alpha male or a masculine man, and you want him to protect you. You want him to provide for you and preside over the home and stuff like that, you have to submit to his rule. If you want a man to protect you in the streets, if something goes down and he's supposed to lay his life down for you, then if he says, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, maybe you shouldn't wear that out there at this time of night, or you shouldn't be doing this, you carry that bag of money down the middle of the street in the ghetto, that's his prerogative. There's some other word that just went away. That's his prerogative as the leader, as the one who you are submitting to lead. He's trying to protect you. So if he's offering you advice, you can choose to listen to that. And that's the whole thing. I don't understand why submission has been equated with slavery. You choose to submit. A man chooses to submit to you and be the provider and the protector. You choose to submit to his leadership. If you want a traditional, now if you don't want a traditional relationship, masculine feminine dynamic relationship, then you have to create your own, but it may not look the same way. So this is what we're talking about. So mutual submission is the glue that keeps you together, is the glue that creates the family. You're both living to something bigger than yourself.
And a lot of things come from kind of the natural giftings or tendencies of masculine and feminine. I'm gonna give a precise story to exactly what you just described. Like exactly what you just described. All right. So we're going to Chicago, right? And big city, Chicago is nowadays known to be kind of dangerous sometimes and all that kind of stuff and all that kind of stuff. And so, and I'm from a big city, right? I mean, I grew up in DC. So, I got some experience with that, some street smarts and all that kind of stuff. And so, we're going into the city and we're taking the train down like into town and we're going to do our thing, blah, 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 blah. And so, I looked over at her and I said, maybe you shouldn't bring your Louis Vuitton purse. Just saying. Like, okay, when we go, like, I'm going to keep you safe. Like, you ain't got to worry about nothing happening. Like, if I'm there, it's got to get through me before it gets to you. Like, that's my submission, right? I mean, and she's fully aware that that's the way it's going to go down. She's fully aware that if I'm around, she's good to go and she got nothing to worry about. At the same time, my advice in addition to that is, how about we not take the Louis purse downtown, right? Like, make ourselves a bigger target.
On top of your head in the middle of Chicago.
And the response I got to that was, okay, you are absolutely right. I'm going to leave the Louis here. I'm not going to bring any kind of purse at all. We're going to keep all of our wallets and everything else on us. Boom. Perfect example of exactly what you just described, man. Like, the mutual submission of that whole thing. Like, when we go here, I'm gonna get us there. I'm gonna figure out the train. I'm gonna figure out this and where we're going. What street we on. I got my phone on navigation. Like, you are safe. You are in the pocket right now. You're in the wake of the ship, and you're just you're in the place you need to be. At the same time, let me provide some structure. And when that mutual submission happens, especially in the masculine feminine dynamic, then he becomes the house. And she becomes the home. He becomes the structure and the support and the protection, all the stuff that you just described. She becomes all of the spirit of everything that's inside of that kind of stuff. And that's the mutual submission of, here's what I have to offer to us, and here's what you have to offer to us, and we work together in that whole thing. Nothing is more important than the other. The stage and the performer go hand in hand. Neither one of them are the best they can be without the other.
Yeah, I mean, what we keep seeing, and I do my research, I get on YouTube and I watch a lot of these videos, and it's cringeworthy, most of them, because young women nowadays are only looking for the six-figure man who's 6 feet tall, who's got six-pack abs, six whatever else, and not offering anything in return, and then wondering why they get played with. The guy will take you home and play with you, but he's not going to keep you, because there's an obvious, what am I getting out of this? And there's no divine feminine openness and receptivity to submission to that man, because we keep hearing, I want a man's man who will lead. I want a man who will pay for dinner and take me on trips and provide a house and all those different things. But then we say, well, what do you bring to the table? Well, I am the table. You going to be on the table by yourself.
Right.
There ain't no table.
Right.
So that's what we're talking about. When you want to have a masculine feminine dynamic, equal relationship, you're both submitting to each other. Submission is not a bad thing. That is the foundation, keystone to the whole relationship. Because what's happening nowadays, and we see it, and the evidence is out there, the statistics are out there, women are not submitting to men, They're looking for the bigger, better deal, and they're leaving. And what breaks my heart and what we keep seeing is women in their middle years who are single mothers cannot find a man to commit to them ever again, or very unlikely. They'll find men who will date them. They'll find men who will sleep with them. They will not find men who will take on that responsibility because they see the masculine energy. They see they're not submitting to them. They see they don't want to fall into those gender roles. So what are they going to do with that?
Now, you can do whatever you, I mean, I ain't got to do nothing like I say do it. But guess what? If you want to play the masculine role, then here's the deal. You jump in front of the bullet. You open every door for me. When the ship goes down, you stay on the ship.
With the violinist.
With the violinist. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's one of those things. How do you run it? You can't have a conversation with me saying, man, you know, I hate having to do everything. I hate having to do all the working and do all the kids and do all that. And I hate having to do all this other kind of stuff. And at the same time, you got a problem with the idea of submission to a good man. A good man. And I'm not talking about submission to just men in general. I'm not talking about laying down and being a doormat. I'm talking about all that kind of stuff. Again, a minute ago, I alluded to the idea of submission even biblically. The biblical submission to a woman is really not just to a woman, it's to a wife, to her husband, right? So it's when you're in that relationship, when you're in that dynamic, then that's the way, that's a way that ideally it plays out. You know, but you can't have it both ways in that whole thing. You can't come into it, I want to be treated like a woman, but I want to act like a man. That's the opposite of the Steve Harvey movie.
Well, that's what we see, and that's what's going on right now. A lot of times we see the ladies have been sold this bill of goods that you can have everything you want, do everything you want with no repercussions. And what we keep saying, and what we're telling you from a man's point of view, you can do what you want, but you have to accept the repercussions. That's what men are taught from day one, that you need to provide to be a high value man and accept the repercussions of providing. We just did that episode where we were talking about Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen's divorce. Those are two 1%ers, some of the most gorgeous people on the planet, and they're getting divorced. Well, maybe because neither one of them knew how to submit to the other one, neither one of them knew how to support the other one, because they were both like, well, I'm the best in the world at what I do, and I need to keep being the best in the world at what I do. Neither one of them is submitting it to the greater, the family and the kids and the bigger picture. So you can do whatever you want, just accept the consequences and take responsibility for that. But I get tired of it all the ladies who don't accept the consequences, don't take responsibility, and then blame the guys.
Yeah, and these things. It's not just magic as to how these things happen or don't happen. It's what do you want to experience? I mean, make your choice of what do you want to experience. Do you want to go on the first date and have the guy hand you the check? Do you want to go on the first date and have the guy say, yeah, so you had the number one, I had the number three. I mean, do you want that? Or do you want a guy opening doors for you and providing for you? Do you want a guy, looking both ways before you step out on the street to make sure you don't step out in front of a bus? Do you want a guy doing that or not? Like, it's up to you. If you do, then, again, we're telling you what guys think. We're not telling guys what to think. I mean, and we're trying to get you to see things from a different perspective, a different paradigm than culture is telling you, than your single, lonely friends are going to tell you. All the other masculinated women that are miserable in relationships, we're trying to get you a different perspective than what you hear. And that's why some of this can be kind of disruptive, because it's like, oh, that can't be right. Well, we're not making it up. I assure you we're not making it up. And so what do you want to experience, or do you want to do everything? Like, really, do you want to do all the work, come home and do all the stuff at home, and then have all the expectations? Do you want to carry the full load or not?
Yeah, and I tell you what, idea just came to my head, and probably not a popular idea, but for a lot of you ladies who are still man-hating and not taking responsibility, and in our comments telling us how we should be doing our show and what we should or should not be talking about, you guys might want to get a commune together and go raise cats, because that's probably the most companionship you're going to get. I'm sorry, it might be too late.
All right, man. So bring this thing in for Orlando. What do you think, JBK?
I think if you're not willing to submit to something greater than yourself, whether you're a man or a woman, you are not going to find the fulfillment and happiness in life that you desperately want, because we all can remember when we were children and we were taken care of, and we were in our parents' arms and we submitted to them fully. And that's what we're all deeply wanting to receive, but we're so afraid of submitting to anything outside of ourselves. So you got to take the fear off of it. You got to take your time to find the right person and mutually submit. You will create the life that you are of your dreams, of your good mind.
Man, I would tell my son, I would tell him.
Stephen Samuels.
Yeah, that's his title, by the way. That's not a derogatory comment for all of you people that don't know. He is now a sailor in the Navy. I would tell him, man, you live your life as a samurai, as a servant warrior for good, relationally, and thereby submitting yourself to something greater than yourself. That is the definition of living for purpose. Relationally, I would tell him that you should not marry a woman who is adverse to the idea and the notion of submission. And particularly submission to a man that submits to something greater than himself, to a good-hearted man. You should not put yourself in a position to marry a woman like that, because if you do, she's going to expect something from you that she doesn't have available for you. And I would also tell a woman that you should look for a man that submits to something greater than himself, i.e. purpose. And then when you do, you should make sure that your heart is open to the idea of submitting to that kind of guy as he submits to you, not conditionally, but at the same time. Both of y'all are traveling that road at the same time, and you should be in a relationship where you genuinely look to serve one another and genuinely look for ways to feed the mutual fire. But if you're adverse to the idea of submission, you probably just live for yourself. Today, we can't be chasing the bad boy and the hot chick. Bad boy and hot chicks don't submit. Bad boy and hot chicks don't serve anything else but themselves, right? So we got to make sure that we are looking for the right person. And when we do, we have to offer them our submissive service on a daily basis.
Amen to that.
Boom.
And on that note, Madmen out.
Out.
See y'all next time.